I want you to take a trip down memory lane. I want you to think about last summer, middle of the summer, when you were thinking about the Texans wide receiver room. Was your excitement for that version of the wide receiver room higher than the excitement for this version of the wide receiver room? Let's talk about it, debate, and ultimately we'll get some check marks going to see who was the better wide receiver room and who should you have been more excited about, last year's wide receiver room or this year's wide receiver room. And I can tell you right off the bat, I'm having a hard time seeing how you should be more excited about this year's wide receiver room. 2024, there's some really fun possibilities with this wide receiver room. Christian Kirk on a new team, healthy, playing in a slot with the offensive coordinator that has been in some offenses before that have propped up the slot position. It's a lot to like there. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, man, fantastic potential from both of those rookies. Just did a video about how they could both end up being a steal for the Houston Texans. And then Justin Watson, your consummate professional. And of course, I don't even need to mention how good Nico Collins is. You know he is the standard in that wide receiver room. That is a really good group. But I think back to last year. I think back to how I was feeling and how I was thinking about those top three in the wide receiver room last year. Because remember, Nico Collins was still in a prove-it phase, but you felt pretty good after what he was able to do in 2023. The addition of Stefon Diggs was incredible. And Tank Dell going into year two, there was plenty of excitement about that. But let's compare, contrast, and then ultimately we can decide. And if we don't, we can just argue in the comments about it. Which should have had more hype and more excitement, 2024 or 2025? And I brought up my handy dandy projected list of wide receivers for us to go through. Now, you'll notice here at the bottom of 2024, it's worth noting I didn't include Robert Woods because last summer, I don't believe many of us were projecting Robert Woods to make the team. I don't know that I certainly didn't feel like he was going to make the team. So I put Xavier Hutchinson and I put John Mechie in there. If you put Robert Woods in there, maybe it changes things a little bit, but we can discuss. But let's start with the top of the wide receiver room, maybe with the addition of Stefon Diggs. Nico Collins a year ago, there were high expectations for Nico. What's the next step that he could take? Could he stay healthy heading in to 2024? There was a lot to like, but there's way more to like about 2025 Nico Collins. After 2 years of prove-it football from Nico Collins, I think the check mark has got to go over here into the 2025 column next to the projected 2025 version of Nico Collins, because 2 years of prove it from Nico Collins, better than 1 year. My goodness, he was awesome in 2024. I know a lot of us thought he was going to be really good in 2024, but he's probably better than most people expected and has the chance, according to some fantasy prognosticators, has the chance to be the top wide receiver in fantasy football in 2025. Nobody was thinking that way about Nico Collins a year ago. Top 10, sure. Number one, not so fast, my friend. Stefon Diggs versus Christian Kirk. Again, a year ago, there wasn't a totally clear picture on exactly how they were going to use Stefon Diggs. Ultimately, through training camp and then when the season got going, we understood he was going to be the slot guy and work primarily out of the slot for the Texans. And we kind of have a pretty good guess that Christian Kirk is going to fill that role heading into 2025. But I know 2024 wasn't super impressive from Stefon Diggs, but nobody's going to convince me that 2025 Christian Kirk should have, could have, would have, ever will be more hyped than what we were expecting out of 2024 Stefon Diggs. There's a check mark over there in the 2024 calendar. So 1-1 so far between 2024 and 2025. Let's talk about Tank Dell versus Jaden Higgins. Look, I love Jaden Higgins. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. I wouldn't have been shocked if he'd gone in the first round. I liked him better than Matthew Golden. I liked him better than Tetaroa McMillan. In fact, there really aren't that many wide receivers in this draft that I liked Jaden Higgins less than. So like I liked Travis Hunter at wide receiver better than Jaden Higgins, and that was kind of about it. A really good prospect. Big player, can play inside, can play outside, wants to be a red zone weapon, super productive at Iowa State. And I'm excited for him. I'm excited to watch him in 2025. you're not going to convince me that 2024 hype for Tank Dell isn't going to be higher than what Jaden Higgins is right now. Like, Tank Dell was coming off of an incredible rookie season that he didn't even finish, and we still had high aspirations and hopes. And Dell wasn't coming off of some sort of horrible, terrible injury like he is in this offseason. He was just coming off a more simple leg injury, and there were high expectations. He looked fast in the warmups. I mean, by this time last year, Dell was showing off in the workouts, and there was conversations about he was maybe even faster than he had looked. There were high expectations for Tank Dell, high expectations for Dell going into last year, much higher than Jaden Higgins' expectations. So 2024, 2-1. Let's go to Noah Brown. Now, this is a conversation that sort of we all forgot about. I certainly didn't forget about it because I certainly expected it through the summer, even when training camp, even down to final cutdowns for the roster. I expected Noah Brown to be on this team. And then he was banged up in training camp. He couldn't get on the field. And ultimately, the Texans decided to move on from the veteran. But coming out of 2023, Noah Brown had been a key member in a few wins. I mean, you can point to 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4 games that the Texans don't win in 2023 if they didn't have Noah Brown. Okay, but there was the big injury concern and conversation associated with him even a year ago in the summer, heading into 2024 and heading into 2025, man. Whoa, Jalen Noel. I mean, he slipped a little bit further than most people expected. I'd have been fine with the Texans taking Jalen Noel where they took Jaden Higgins. And he's got something on the offensive staff, on the wide receiver room that none of these other wide receivers have, in that he is a speed demon. He can get deep, take the top off the defense, get the safeties pushed back. And this one's tough. I feel like because Jalen Noel has a little bit of unknown next to him, and Noah Brown was a known quantity, we have to compare that. The problem is the known quantity about Noah Brown was he was going to miss time. Jalen Noel missed 1 game at Iowa State. That was because his tummy hurt. So I think I'm going to go Jalen Noel here. 2 for 2. Okay. Xavier Hutchinson a year ago, I didn't have high aspirations for him, and I happily would have swapped him out for Justin Watson. So I'm going to go ahead and put the check mark over here next to Justin Watson. And 2024 projecting John Mechie versus 2025 projecting Xavier Hutchinson. I mean, they kind of feel like the same guy, right? Like Xavier Hutchinson has done nothing to get you super excited about his time with the Houston Texans. I mean, he's fine. He's widely considered a 6th, 7th wide receiver option in this current wide receiver setup. And John Mechie had done nothing. And I think there was hope for John Mechie. There was a thought that John Mechie could get some things going for the Houston Texans ahead of the 2024 season and into the season. But I didn't have high aspirations or expectations for him. And in fact, I was thinking there was probably a conversation to be had about Robert Woods making the team over John Mechie. Now, I was, widely outvoted by other people that covered the team and Texans fans when I brought that up. But, Mechie eventually makes the team. So did Robert Woods. Actually, it was Noah Brown. They got the axe. I don't know that I can say for sure that either of these guys should have a check. So I'm just going to put like a line there. I think this is even. Projected 2024 John Mechie, projected 2025 Xavier Hutchinson. I don't really feel like I have a lot to love from either of them. So as I kind of look and compare, I was more excited about 2024, but it was more centered around these top 3 guys, whereas the whole room, 1 through 5, maybe has a lot more, and the Nico being at the top, obviously. So it looks like my gut feeling is wrong, and that 2025 ultimately should have won this. I'm just having too much fun drawing on here. So, maybe if I'd given Noah Brown a check mark, this is an easy win for 2024. If I'd been able to decide that John Mechie, but a year ago, I didn't feel much about John Mechie. If this was, Woods, let's see if I can draw with the mouse. If this was Woods, I'd probably go check mark here, and then it's a tie, and then it's who has the better top end at the top, Nico Collins and Kirk, combined against Nico Collins and Diggs. And then maybe I lean 2024, but seems like 2025 should be where you're more excited based off of our exercise. I'm just not buying it because those top three heading into 2024, we were talking about 3,000-yard receivers. I was looking up the last time that happened. Arizona Cardinals, by the way, the last ones that did it. That's what we were thinking about. And then ultimately, like for the rest of history for the Texans, they had 1,000-yard receiver and didn't have another one. Injuries got going and the depth wasn't really there in 2024. Maybe the depth being there in 2025 should have been the tiebreaker. I know the exercise said 2025. I still feel like 2024. What say you? You agree with the exercise? 2025, you feel better, should be more excited about them? Or you still feel like a year ago, your thoughts about 2024 were higher than that? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You've been seeing the drop-ins from our wonderful sponsors throughout the course of this video. Visit with them. If you need air conditioning help, Dwayne from Platinum AC and Heating is the guy. If you need new jeans, the perfect jean has, well, the perfect jeans for you. And take your fantasy football draft in-house to the next level with a custom draft board from my friends at Draft Kits and get that discount when you use the code CODY25. Appreciate them for sponsoring this video. Appreciate you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon. The S'mores McFlurry is the food review for this week. You can tell there's graham cracker in there. I mean, look at that. You can tell there's graham cracker. You can smell that marshmallow flavor, that artificial marshmallow flavor. That's good. It looks good. It looks good. 1-11 is the score. Oh, man, it is loaded up. Look, hold on now. Sometimes these McFlurries are not really loaded up. This one is loaded up. Look at all those little bits and pieces in there. I guess it's called officially the Hershey's S'more. Let's get in here. Okay. You definitely get that s'more flavor. Man, somebody on the internet said this was the best dessert McDonald's ever had, and they may be on to something here. There's big chunks of chocolate in there. You get enough graham cracker. Some of those, like it's that pillowy marshmallow flavor, but I don't know where the marshmallow's coming in. But it ends up being $4 for the regular. You could probably go with the mini. There's a lot going on here. One more bite. That is a very good McFlurry. Is it the best dessert McDonald's has ever had? The OG apple pie will be tough to beat. Man, that is very good, though. It's probably better than an M&M. And I don't love s'mores flavors. Now, that's not necessarily like as hardcore as a s'more, because s'mores are hot inevitably, and a McFlurry's cold. So it's not a hardcore s'mores flavor. It's really just a really good chocolatey, graham crackery, marshmallowy flavor, which I guess inherently is s'mores. But s'mores has that kind of that toastiness to it. You don't quite get that. So it's not an exact s'mores replica flavor from that standpoint, but it's very good. It's very good. 1-11. 11 being the best thing you've ever had. 9.1. 9.1, which is a pretty high score. It's good. It was nice and loaded up. Maybe I just got lucky. Sometimes those McFlurries are not loaded up. This one was loaded up with lots of toppings. Good flavor. Is it the best dessert McDonald's ever had? Like that one guy on the internet said? Maybe not. But it's pretty darn good. And I don't love s'mores, but it impressed me. Certainly worth a try. Certainly worth a try, especially if you get a mini and just throw it on the back end of your order. It's certainly worth you trying the Hershey's S'mores McFlurry from McDonald's.